So when I was about 39 or 40, I got involved in an organization called Inner-City Outing. And Inner-City Outings is the community outreach arm of the Sierra Club. In Inner-City Outings, we take mostly kids, but I worked with adult groups and people who really don't have an opportunity to get into the wilderness. We set up trips and we take them out. When I was involved with ICO, a couple of things happened. One is through ICO, I got involved with this organization called Threshold for Change, which was a drug and alcohol program for adolescents. They had to leave home and go there, and the kids there were mostly really going to met a lot of problems. And a friend of mine started that program, and I set up through Inner-City Outings a free wilderness program for them. But as a result of that, I really figured out that I liked doing that more than I liked my job. So it was just a matter of figuring out how I could do that and make a living at it. And working in adolescent drug and alcohol, to me, did not seem like it could sustain itself. When I came home, I would park at the top of my driveway and I would just sit there and cry for about 15 or 20 minutes because the lives of these kids were so horrible and their parents were so horrible and their families were so horrible. It just, it wasn't like anything I'd ever experienced growing up, that the profound abandonment that these kids have. I didn't see myself doing that day in, day out, day in, day out. And when I looked around in the adolescent drug and alcohol field, I saw that the people who worked directly with kids, and that's what I wanted to be doing, was working directly with kids, but almost no one had kind of what you'd call line jobs working with kids, in that field for, any really sustained period of time. It was just very rare. But I also knew people who were teachers, and they'd been teaching for 20, 30 years and got better and better and better at it, and more enthusiastic about it. So I thought that that's something I could do. And just at that time, the Sierra Club sent me to a conference of experiential educators in New Mexico, and I represented the club at this big international conference. And I met a guy there. His name was Reno Taini, and he was getting the association's biggest award. He'd been California State Teacher of the Year, and he ran the program the team is modeled after. They had a little film of what his school was, and I thought, that's something I could do. So I decided to go back to school, get a teaching credential, and then try to work my way into a situation where I could do just what Reno's doing. Team kind of fell into my lap. It had already been started, been running for a year before I came to it. It was having some really major problems. The person who started it was not the person who should have been running it. They brought me in for the second year. I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. So, throughout the 20 years of Team's existence, we have maintained the same structure. We've always had the ropes course, we've always had the wilderness trips, we've always had the career internships, and we've always had the community service. I think one thing that the teaching of wilderness medicine does is it makes people more careful. Because when you do a course like that, you realize, how far out there you are, how difficult it is to respond to some medical emergencies, and how distant definitive medical care really is. So I think, one thing it does serve, for team students is to be more careful. That's one. And two, I think they do a much better job of looking after each other. The purpose of Team, it derives from the ideas of two educators. One is a guy named Kurt Hahn, who founded Outward Bound in England during World War II. And the other guy is an educational critic who's still alive now, John Taylor Gatto. So from the Kurt Hahn side of it, Kurt Hahn had this idea of impelling people into experience. And John Taylor Gatto And he looks back to an earlier time when young people were kind of out in the world and you were, interacting, all during your childhood and adolescence with a broad range of different age groups. So we want to push students out, into these internships. We want to push them out into positions of responsibility.